This is a solution for question 3, test 2 July 2021 for the topic ABC costing. Delima Berhad manufacture two types of product named DM and DP. The company is currently using traditional single overhead rate using machine hour as the basis. And the manager has decided to use activity-based costing. His research found that the company overhead can be identified with three activities: manufacturing setup, machine processing, and product shipping. The information on its three main activities are as follows. The cost driver for manufacturing setup is setup. The cost driver for machine processing is machine hour. And the cost driver for product shipping is product shipment. The overhead cost for manufacturing setup is 200,000. The overhead cost for machine processing is RM 1.1 million. And the overhead cost for product shipping is 45,000. Data on the production activity for the company are as follows. For product DM, the volume is 5,000 unit. The setup is 100. Machine hour per unit is 5 hours. The product shipment is 300. Direct material cost per unit is 150 and direct labor hour per unit is 5 hours. For product DP, there are 8,750 units and 150 setup, 4 machine hour per unit, 450 product shipment, 170 direct material cost per unit, and 6 direct labor hour per unit. In additional information, the direct labor rate is given at 15 ringgit per hour. In question A, you need to calculate the appropriate overhead absorption rate using both traditional and activity-based costing method. Your answer need to be round up to 2 decimal places. First, we will begin with traditional method. To calculate OAR, the formula is total estimated overhead divided by the total number of basis used. Basis used for traditional method, as per stated in the first paragraph, is machine hour. The machine hour for product DM is 25,000 machine hour. That is 5,000 unit multiplied with 5 machine hour. Whereas the basis for product DP is also machine hour. That is 8,750 unit multiplied with 4 machine hour is equal to 35,000 machine hour. And for the total overhead, it consists of RM 200,000 manufacturing setup, 1.1 million machine processing, and RM 45,000 for product shipping. So total estimated overhead is RM 1.345 million, and then the total number of basis used is equal to 60,000 machine hour. And the OAR is equal to RM 22.42 per machine hour, that is 1.345 million divided by 60,000 machine hour. Next is to calculate the overhead absorption rate using activity-based costing. From the table, we need to list down the activity cost pool, overhead cost, the total cost driver, and also the absorption rate. You can get the absorption rate by dividing the overhead cost with the total cost driver. The total cost driver can be calculated when you add up the cost driver from product DM with the cost driver from the product DP. Let's start with the first activity cost pool, that is manufacturing setup. The overhead cost for manufacturing setup is 200,000 and the total cost driver is equal to 250 setup. So the absorption rate is equal to 800 per setup. That is 200,000 divided by 250. Then in the second activity cost pool, that is machine processing, the overhead cost is 1.1 million And then the total cost driver is equal to 60,000 machine hour. When we divide 1.1 million with 60,000 machine hour, we will get the absorption rate of RM 18.33 per machine hour. And for the last activity cost pool, that is product shipping, the overhead cost is RM 45,000 and the total cost driver is equal to 750. And after we divide these two amounts, we will get the absorption rate of 60 ringgit per product shipment. In question B, you need to calculate the production cost per unit for product DM using both methods. So in arriving at the production cost per unit, you need to include the cost of direct material per unit, the cost of direct labor per unit, and the cost of overhead per unit. So let us begin with direct material per unit. The direct material per unit as stated in the table in paragraph 3 is equal to RM 150 and this amount will be used for both methods. And then the direct labor cost per unit is equal to RM 75 ringgit. That is 5 hours multiplied with the direct labor rate as given in the additional information. And then we have overhead cost per unit. Using traditional costing, the overhead cost per unit is RM 112.10. Whereas in activity-based costing, the overhead cost per unit is 111.25. The calculation for the overhead cost per unit using traditional costing is RM 22.42. This is the overhead absorption rate that we have calculated in question A. Then you need to multiply it with the basis used. So the basis used for traditional costing method is machine hour. And if you refer to the table in the third paragraph, there are 5 machine hour for product DM. So 22 ringgit 0.42 cent multiplied with 5 machine hour is equal to 112.10. So for the total production cost per unit for product DM using traditional costing will be 337 ringgit and 10 cent. That is 150 plus 75 plus 112 ringgit and 10 cent. Whereas for activity-based costing, the production cost per unit is equal to 336 ringgit and 25 cent. That is 150 plus 75 plus 111 ringgit and 25 cent. This is the working for overhead cost per unit. You can get the overhead cost per unit by dividing the total overhead cost of RM 556,250 with the volume that is equal to 5,000 units. So when we divide these two amount, you will get the answer of RM 111 ringgit and 25 cent. For the total overhead of RM 556,250, you can get it by multiplying the expected use cost driver of product DM with the absorption rate. Let's start with manufacturing setup. The expected use cost driver consists of 100 setup and the absorption rate is 800. 100 multiplied with 800 is RM 80,000. Next is machine processing. The expected use cost driver in product DM is 25,000 machine hour and the absorption rate is 18 ringgit 33 cent per machine hour. After multiplying these two amounts, you will get the answer of 458,250. And last is product shipping. The expected use cost driver for product DM is 300 product shipment and the absorption rate is 60 per product shipment. 300 multiply with 60 is RM 18,000. So total for 80,000 plus 458,250 plus 18,000 is equal RM 556,250.